Hi everyone, I'm Sloan from SloanBella.com and I am back with another channeled energetic video. This young woman is embroiled in controversy as her father retains conservatorship over everything she does in her life, including her vast wealth. And this young woman is approaching her 40s. She is a grown woman with 2 children, and she has no say-so in her life. Her father has orchestrated a very controlled environment around her with the people that he put into place so that he is aware of every single move that this young woman does, along with the avoidance of family and friends being able to intervene on her behalf. So it's a very precarious position for the soul to be placed in. Now I'm talking about Britney Spears, who was born on December 2nd, 1981, and she is a Sagittarius sun with a Libra rising and an Aquarius moon. Now what I noticed about her chart, which I haven't looked at for a little while since I did the first video, but what I noticed about her chart was Mars placed up in the 12th house, hidden and out of sight. So men from a past life and men in positions of hidden enemies, her father. And I looked at Saturn in the first house and I looked at Pluto in the first house, and I recognized that the rising sign and her Saturn sitting there with Pluto basically is a combustible combination for her. Saturn in the first house is always the ending of a most recent past life experience, either through your own actions or your own hands. In this particular position with Pluto there, it was interesting to me because I immediately felt the capture of the soul for 3 lifetimes, the past 3 lifetimes. The other thing that I saw was Pluto squaring Venus from the 4th house. Now that Pluto square to Venus was also interesting because it was a past lover in the 4th house of home, i.e. the father. This is a past life thing that we are witnessing here, and nobody can explain it because that sounds ridiculous. Also, her sun is in a very wide conjunction to Neptune, which some would call not a conjunction. And this is the problem that she has because she doesn't see clearly, and once she is captured, she's unable to process things from a very logical mind. But a lot of victims of abuse of this sort, where they are caged and captured. Why am I saying that? I'm going to explain in 1 second. I also saw that she had a grand trine, Earth grand trine, which elevates her ability to achieve on this planet financially, which we know. And she also had a T-square involving that Pluto. So I was beginning to see the friction of energy in the chart. Again, I didn't analyze the whole chart. I looked at it briefly and I get impressions. So as I was energetically focused on Britney, she's definitely caged. And the way that I saw her when I was meditating was I saw her elevated in suspension. Okay, so dimensional suspension. What I mean by that is she wasn't here and she wasn't there, but she was suspended energetically between the 2 atmospheres. So Britney is not very often present or grounded in her physical body. Now, for those of you that are psychics and mediums, you know what I'm talking about with that, because after working all day, you can be very ungrounded in the self. Or for drug addicts out there, when they do their drugs, there is a feeling of leaving the physical body, which is what they're looking for. It's to go back to the home place. And so to leave the physical is to leave the denseness energetically. Britney is very rarely physically home on a spiritual level. This is what I was seeing. What I did see with her is this dimensional capture and in-between state energetically. 1 foot over here and 1 foot over here. I also saw that she was housed in a cage. Now this could be metaphoric, or they could really do this on the astral level. I don't know. But I saw her in a cage, and I saw her weirdly kind of dressed like Raquel Welch in that prehistoric movie. That sounds weird, but that's kind of the costume she was wearing. Britney's known for wearing very little clothes, and you got to respect the girl for that because she's got a killer body. However, in this particular instance, it's more of how they dressed her in a submissive style with her bare feet. She had markings up her leg and she had markings up her arms, and these markings up the legs were kind of kind of covered, almost in those sandals where you wrap the roping around your leg, and the same with her arms. Roping wrapped around her, but I could see the marks as she was trying to move out of the cage. Now, when I saw her in the cage, her hands were placed on the bars. Her face was peering out, and I could see that she could not understand how she got there. I also could see that this happened before the age of 3. So this started with her when she was a very, very small child. And I feel like people know what I'm talking about. I also see underneath her that the suspension is there so that they can heat up the bottom of the cage. Now, what do I mean by that? I literally see an inferno of flames underneath the cage, okay? So think of a hamster cage, think of suspending your hamster cage from the ceiling and lighting a fire underneath it. Every time Britney prays, she lowers her head and goes into prayer. This is what I'm hearing her do. As she prays, the heat is raised. It burns the bottom of the cage. Her feet get hot. She hops around, but she can't hop around because she's in such a closed space. So she has to absorb the heat, and she doesn't like this. It's a very weird visual that I get when I see her. So she is being punished for her prayer. She is not allowed to pray is what I'm hearing. She cannot speak to God. She cannot ask Jesus to pull her out right now. She's caught in between, which is why I feel like people around her, people who care for her, even people who don't know her but are fans, need to pray on her behalf, because for some reason she can't seem to do it without physically injuring herself. That's like kind of the combination that I'm seeing. I'm also feeling with her that very specifically between the months of June 2021 and the end of December, possibly through February of 2022, Britney needs to speak up for herself, and she needs to demand to be seen and spoken with another judge, or I feel we may have a repeat of the most recent past life where she left that lifetime early, was captured. There's some sort of a soul capture between leaving the most recent past life and this life. So when she died in the most recent 3 lifetimes, this is just how I'm seeing it, and no, I can't prove it. It was just shocking when I saw it. This girl has been captured on an energetic level. She has been bound and pulled like sometimes I see animals on a farm and they have collars where they can, mainly bulls or steers, the ones that will buck and jump away, and there's a rope there and they can pull them and their face goes down and they don't want to go. This is what I'm seeing with her. I'm seeing her leave her physical body and be pulled right back down by something like that, like pulling her energy. So she's literally been bound. As a small child, she was involved in ritual pursuits, not through her own actions. I don't even feel like she knew what the hell was going on. I'm talking as a 3 and 4 and 5-year-old. This comes directly from the father's side of the family and one of the uncles. Everybody in the family knows and is afraid for their own children and families. This is when I wish people would understand that we all die, and therefore, if you understood that you all died, we all die. If we understood this, we could move on with our moral compass to protect people without being in fear of them slaughtering our whole family. This is what I feel family members are afraid of. Something is going to happen to them. Something will happen to them. And I see her father as a rager, like a raging alcoholic. So he slams his fist down, and I just see like alcoholic and rage, and the energy is very familiar. It's the father's energy of her, and the people around are stunned. Now, money talks a lot of time, but it's not only that. It's not only the money we're talking about. It's the passing around of the energy. We all drink from the cup, he says. We all drink from the cup. We all drink. She has a guard outside her cage, and I just heard this come from him. So she is not even free on the astral level, even slightly, to get out of the current circumstances that she's in energetically, and she's not grounded in her physical body. She is observing her physical body, and there's times they pull her energy sideways through the slats, and then she comes into it, but most of the time she's out of her body and somebody else is driving the car, is what I'm hearing. She definitely prays for her children. She has asked. What I'm being shown is she comes back into very clear sight, very, very clear sight at times. And she comes through and she asks people to help her. And I'm feeling like a lot of people are trying to help her, but it feels like the circumstances around her are very, very, very extreme, very fucking extreme. And I don't know why this is being allowed to go on in America. I really don't. I feel like if we have all these other let's just look at entertainers, only because Britney is a singer, but let's look at all of these entertainers, mostly male, that just go fucking crazy, do drugs, alcohol, slam their cars into things, you know, supposedly bite the heads off of bats and do all kinds of things. Why isn't their money under control in a conservatorship? What is happening there? Why is it just Britney? Is it because she's female and she dared to open her mouth? Is it because her father can bribe and pay a judge who under no circumstances is legitimately fair when he's sitting there? Now this is just my psychic opinion, but when I asked if Britney had like severe mental illness that would hinder her cognition in her life, I got the drugs are hindering her cognition. So they've given her a cocktail of drugs that just throws her right out of her physical body. And this is her family doing this to her. The rest of her family, and I have to say this, it's not my place to say, but I am going to say this. If you can't stand up for somebody in your family who is being abused, and this is evident, if you can't stand up for that, that's a huge problem. I don't care what you're trying to cover in your house. You need to speak up for people in this position, because she's only got a small window of time before she can leave this energy field. You know what I'm talking about. Transcend the life and die like we all do, which means transcend dimensions. But if she's in a captured state and hasn't declared her autonomy with God, so to speak, then she's captured again. And this is happening before she's born. So this is happening, the undercurrent is happening like as the soul is trying to find a body to come into, she's being lured back into the same circumstance and recycled and recycled and recycled. Kind of a Groundhog Day in sorts, but a very, very negative one. And this is not a good position for this young woman to be in any sense of the word. There's tremendous sadness and shame on her part about what she's done to her children. I don't think she's done, quote, anything to her children, except that at the time that she had her children, she perhaps was unaware or unwilling to see her participation in certain things. Because understand, when you're born in a family that practices whatever, you know, rituals they do, whether it be Catholicism, whether it be midnight mass, whether it be Lent, whether it be the sacrifice, you hear the word, it's, you know, I mean, we throw that word around like as if it's a good thing. Whatever it is, Britney was involved in that as a child. This is where she came from. The father did everything and anything he could to amass great wealth at the expense of his daughter. And I will say another thing, another correlation in a completely different way. But when we're talking about Celine Dion and what she experienced in childhood and how her husband came, although he denied, you know, dating her at 13, but at 18 it was fine. We know he was predatory, and she's been captured. I don't care how successful people think she is or what a great voice she has. It's nothing when you're not free to be who you are. And Britney or Celine are not free to be who they are. And especially Britney, she's encased, she's trapped. She needs to be brought forward. And there's a tug of war for her soul right now. There's literally a tug of war for this young woman's soul. So she needs people to be able to pray for her. Every time she does, she is blocked from it. Now, what I mean by that is there is some physical repercussions for her trying to dig her way out of what she's involved in right now. And I do feel between now, June, and December, actually June 2021 and February 2022, we need to watch Britney, because she may not physically be able to maintain where she is. Her literally, okay, so let's look at this in a different way. When we die, and I'm going to reference this, I talked about this on a live last night, had a client that did a lot of DMT, and one time he described almost overdosing and almost dying. And I asked him how he knew if he was outside of his body, because it'll throw you right outside of your body. It's a substance that's released at the point of death. So when we die, this is what is released. we transcend. We need, I guess, like rocket fuel to get into the next dimension. But I asked him, like, how did you know that? How did you know, that? And he saw a splitting of the cord. Now let's look at it. The umbilical cord that attaches the baby to the mother also attaches through the etheric body to the physical body. So when we overdose, that cord, the silver cord, is broken, and we leave the planet, we leave our physical house, and our body goes on. Now where that body goes is not just directly over into the highest position, such as heaven, back with the Father. We go to elevated states and dimensions that are heaven-like and beyond description in our mere mortal form. However, we have been also conditioned to hang in different areas. And so in Britney's particular case, when you are using in your life, whether your family has told you to, or you do it on your own because you have a desire for something, when these energetic rituals are practiced, now just look at Catholicism, which people consider to be traditional. Look at the wearing of the robes, look at the Latin Mass, look at the incense, and look at the incantation. That is a ritual, okay? We want to say it's one we're used to. It's one that we're used to that they're not telling us the whole truth about. It is definitely a ritual. So Britney experienced this as a child, and she definitely split as a kid. Now what I am seeing is a fragmentation of her mental state or her mind, and I'm seeing, like the silver cord, I'm seeing on a soul level unraveling like this all the way down the spinal column. So she's separating and splitting in different directions. So Britney is having trouble right now maintaining a sense of focus over her human self in this life. The soul is fracturing, going down the spinal column like this, and she's being pulled in different directions. Her energy is very powerful, and they don't want to let go of it. So every time she is asking for help, she's not getting the help she needs. She's giving off those little signals, and we are allowing a judge, I believe in California, to sentence her father to watching her again. Why is no celebrity standing up for her? I don't understand this. If you're in a position of power and you're able to stand up, why aren't they hiring a separate lawyer for this girl so that when she goes to court next, that lawyer shows up on her behalf, whether she wants it or not, so that she can at least talk privately, because this is not going on. The rest of the family is afraid, and there's really no excuse for that. You need to stick up morally. Your moral compass needs to speak on behalf of this young woman. And I know you're afraid, but bullies do that. They make you afraid. Her father is a bully on an energetic sense, and everybody around her is a bully on an energetic sense. So this young woman is being captured, controlled, and basically sinfully held down without any idea, accused, scapegoated, gaslit that she's mentally ill. Well, if I shove a bunch of drugs down your throat to make you compliant like they do in a lot of mental hospitals, you're going to seem pretty mental. When you get sober, then you can ascertain whether she has mental illness like bipolar or something along these lines, which she probably does from early childhood abuse. But at this point, they're medicating her. So she talks, whatever. They're medicating her. They're medicating her, and they're thinking it's funny. Plus, she's on a grander scale. So the more that she freaks out, the more that she breaks down, the more that it entertains the others in that cult. That's how I'm going to word it. So the more it entertains people. Anyway, this is my quick video on Britney Spears. I wanted to get that out because I feel it's imperative that prayers start for her so that she can be elevated on an energetic level to at least rise above it and speak for herself in some way. Because when she tries to do it, she's blocked out of physical repercussions for her even trying to pray is what I'm seeing. I don't know what that means because I'm seeing it in the spirit, not in the physical. Anyway, once again, my name is Sloan from SloanBella.com.